there's just one thing that I'd like to say about this, which my own expertise maybe can help to contextualize the book a little bit, and that is that this whole thing about her being part of this United World Federalists and being part of this this movement after the Second World War of young people to have a one-world government to work towards peace, this sort of left-leaning idea that was started by Henry Wallace, who was Franklin Roosevelt's vice president and a social democrat. It's all very much, there's this generation at the end of the Second World War, before the Cold War is really consolidated, of these social democrats across Europe and North America, who led first by Maurice Sauvé, who was Jean Sauvé's husband, for those of you who are a little bit older and remember Jean Sauvé, the Governor General of Canada. But these people were worldly people, and this makes her quite an exceptional American, a generation of Americans who actually did know about the world, who knew other languages, who actually claimed themselves to be world citizens. And so she's much different even than the Black Panthers, or maybe that's actually a very striking contrast in the book. Her worldliness gives her a very particular identity and expertise that I don't think of many. We don't really associate with Americans very often, but her generation, her particular generation, and this particular subgroup of people actually did embrace the world and were sophisticated about the world and world politics.
For me also, she represents a moment, kind of, post-colonialism in the region. You had many characters like her all over the place, associating with revolutionaries, with the post-colonial order in North Africa and in the Levant. And for me, it's interesting while reading this memoir is, where are they now? In a sense, that's what I mean. She presented a certain moment. It's difficult to replicate this now. And in this context, I remembered a documentary I saw by the director of the Battle of Algiers when he went back to Algeria, and kind of the aggressive behavior he encountered on the streets of Algeria. And he was asking why, like when I came to do that, to direct the movie, it was a totally different atmosphere. Mm-hmm. There's a different relationship now between those international activists who associate with the region and people in the region themselves, given how politics progressed. And this is how I was reading that book as well. Mm-hmm. In a way, a moment that there's a rupture in that moment, given international politics and the impacts on the region.
Mm-hmm. Adam, did you want to say anything about that? Well, not specifically what Amal just said, but the question of who she is. Yeah.
Yeah, the question. Well, that's a big question for me, of course, because not only because questions of identity were always kind of prominent in whatever history I did, particularly white people writing about.
Yeah.
There's a power dynamic, of course, between white settler colonists, which is probably complicated by the fact that, of course, she is Jewish, and you have this very strange relationship that is very familiar to my studies between a Jewish woman and black men. Mm. So what I found, I found a few things interesting. I thought it was interesting that she included that there wasn't a sexual dynamic between her and Cleaver.
You said it at least twice.
Yeah. I was like, but for me, actually, these are the kind of things that get left out of what we, I guess, more professional historical accounts that I think don't allow us to situate the author and to get a sense for the ways in which their perspective might be coming to bear on the information that they're interpreting. So, and I really appreciated the fact that I had this information, because it activates your critical mind, and you start reading, thinking, okay, so how might what she's seeing and what she's reading, in terms of the context, be influenced by her position? And of course, as myself as well, having done history, done some field work in places like Africa, identity has a huge impact on the ways in which people around you respond as well. So the kind of experiences that she was having, someone who was a person of color couldn't have had that experience. And I remember, just to kind of support that, I remember doing histories in Africa and being white. and thinking, trying to think about having to write about that experience of going there and trying to do research on market women in Accra, actually, was where I was in Ghana, and being read continually as a white Westerner, whereas here I've always kind of been read as an African, and thinking about the ways in which that changed the dynamic between me and the person, and particularly the power dynamic, especially if I wasn't dealing with someone who was rich there, and the way that they would present themselves to me. So I think it's great to have a lot of these kind of dynamics that might be driving things that we don't normally think about when we're thinking about history. If for nothing else, it allows a different kind of engagement with the text.
I just remembered something. When I read the postscript, I was surprised. Where is she situating herself, and why is this a postscript and not the introduction? And here I'm wondering, is she trying to say something that we're not seeing, especially being a kind of, a Jewish woman, is she trying to bridge the 50s and the 60s with now as a Jewish woman? So that, I don't know, I don't have the answer, but I think there is something about why she did that as a postscript.
Yeah, going back to her childhood like that. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
Nothing more than to say that I reread that this morning, and I had exactly the same question. I do think that this question of her being a white Jewish woman is really fraught for her. Like, she really feels like she needs to explain herself and really demonstrate her solidarity with people of color, and that she has this background that gave her this sense of deep connection and solidarity. But that was all that I could.
Just go full circle. And I think too, what it raises is that being Jewish in the Algerian context means something very different. And so one of the interesting things about this conversation is the way that a certain identity means different things in different places. And so she's very adamant that the fact she was Jewish was never used against her by the Algerians. Right? She wants to stave off some of this notion that perhaps in North Africa they were anti-Semitic against her. So she makes that very clear. And perhaps what she doesn't make clear is that for Algerian Jews, which were an indigenous category, they get French citizenship in 1870. So the backstory to being a Jew, an Algerian Jew, is that you're included and given French nationality in a way that Algerian Muslims weren't. So there again, you can see that that category of being a Jew is very different seen from the US as seen from Algeria, in which case you're actually somewhere between the settler population and the quote-unquote Muslim indigenous population.
I guess I also wondered about this. I mean, I'm going to bring up the Oscars, weirdly, because I was reading this book again as I was also keeping track of who was winning things or not at the Oscars, and then I saw Seth Meyers' spoof video of the film White Savior. It's like this fake trailer for a film about a white savior. And it's basically about, I mean, at the beginning of this trailer, he says something like, it's about this African-American woman and, a man who was white while she did these important things, right? And I wondered about Elaine Mokhtefi's account, not just the role that she plays along the way, but I had this moment of panic, like, oh, this is this woman's account of these movements and this revolutionary moment and these people of color and their lives, and have I chosen a book that is like another? But she also represents herself as just a fly on the window. She's never an important figure. she's there all the time and she's doing things, but you never get the sense that I don't feel like she's Kevin Costner in Hidden Figures, you know what I mean? So, and I was sort of like thinking about that, like what makes this account, why don't I feel that way? What makes this account okay in a way that another kind of account by a first-hand white account, whether she's Jewish or not, a woman or not, that it might bother me in another situation, and it didn't in this text, and I just wondered if anybody had any thoughts about that. Not about Kevin Costner, but Amal.
What I wanted to add is, throughout the text, she's the white American woman. It's in the postscript that she emerges more specifically as the Jewish white, and that's why I'm wondering, like, so how do we read this? The identity shifts a little bit, more emphasis on the Jewish part. So it's not kind of direct answer to this particular question, but kind of, what's going on here and in how to read her now.
Uh-huh.
I think part of it has to do, again, with this generational thing. I think that, her identity as a world citizen, at least in the 50s, like back then, I think she would have really seen this as all beside the point, right? That she is a citizen of the world. She's in solidarity with the colonized, the oppressed, the working class, and that this simply does not matter to her. So I'm not like you can criticize that, but I do believe that was the identity that she had, and which was driving her ending up in Algiers, right? I mean, she wouldn't be there otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But she did mention it somewhere near the beginning, because I had a consciousness of her being Jewish throughout the book. And it seemed to me she did what most progressive Jewish people do throughout the book, which is identify themselves as white when they have white privilege. Which she was, I think, seemed very conscious. Maybe this was me reading into the book, but she seemed conscious of when she could use her white privilege to open doors or gain access.
Yeah, and I mean, this reminds me, there is a point in the book where she tries to take Algerian citizenship, right? I mean, and I think we have to take seriously like a political commitment about taking on a passport that you weren't born into, even as a citizen of the world. And I think it speaks to, Fanon is kind of in the background of this whole book, and Fanon's idea of solidarity, not just as something casual, but really throwing your lot in with another people in that way. And for a while, it didn't turn out that way, but the FLN did say, if you're willing to take Algerian citizenship and be on our side, you can be Algerian. And the notion that third worldism was also an attempt to think about nationality and identity in a broader way that wasn't just you fill out these boxes and therefore your politics, your identity is such. And I think that's a powerful part of the book.
I wanted to talk about, or ask a sort of broad question about, coming back, I guess, to this idea of the intimate history. All of these moments, in the book where I feel like the question of the relationship between, or the sort of affective nature of politics is so central, right? That politics is so personal, that this is about friendships, about relationships, about love stories, about affairs, that we get this kind of sense that politics can't and doesn't happen without all of these interpersonal relationships. It's another maybe contrast to a lot of the kinds of histories that we might maybe see in a biography or an autobiography, but not so much in histories of these political movements. And I guess it's connected to her being a woman in some ways, but she's also choosing to give us these kinds of details about these people's lives. So it's kind of a broad question about your responses to what we learn about these movements in this book that we didn't know already, and whether or not the personal side of this story is illuminating as far as the political change over time, the evolution, devolution of these movements. Any thoughts that you might have on that? Adam, do you want to say anything about A lot of feels in this book.
It's the feels, yeah. I've been trying to figure that out, actually, because